Good evening, everyone. Hope you've all had a great Friday. We are closing out another week, and I wanted to take just a few minutes to talk about the latest Covenant cinematic that dropped yesterday. This one was for Ardenweald. Um, I was gonna do this yesterday. I wanted to do a live reaction video for it, but man, I started watching it and I got sidetracked, so I just started watching it instead of doing a live reaction, a true live reaction. And man, they just kick you right in the feels. I mean, right, just throat punch to the heart with this one. The music is spot on. I mean, you hear it, and like 30 seconds in, you're already starting to tear up. And just again, hats off to the Blizzard cinematic team. No matter the style of cinematic they do, they have just gotten to be phenomenal and expert storytellers. They leave no stone unturned. They push every button. You run an emotional gauntlet through most of these cinematics, and Ardenweald is no different. So, um, hey Jen, how are you? How are you? So I just wanted to go over just a couple of things that jumped out at me. And again, I don't have beta access, so there could be more context in the story that we have so far for Ardenweald as you're questing through in the beta. But just a few things that jumped out at me just from the get-go on the first viewing of it. So, like the other two previous cinematics, this one starts off with a death. Um, so we have, and again, unlike the other two, you had Bastion, who you had Uther, who was one of the most well-known Warcraft characters of all time, and then you have Arthas, which is probably the most well-known Warcraft character of all time, and there's no mistaking who those two are. You know immediately who those two are, and then you jump into Maldraxxus and a little slightly lesser known character of Draka, Thrall's mom. But again, if you played the game a long enough time and you've kept up with just a little bit of the lore, Draka. That's not a completely alien concept. This one for Ardenweald, however, is you're given zero context as to who it is. You have to know the lore, and you have to know exactly what you're looking at in order to even have a clue as to who this is at the very beginning, because it's not a well-known character. If you were a druid and you played through the class quest line in Legion, you've seen this character. If you remember questing through Grizzly Hills, my favorite zone in the game, you remember seeing this character. But the bear that we see to start this cinematic is Ursoc. Ursoc was a wild god, very similar to Cenarius. He had a twin brother named Ursol, and they were the first to answer Cenarius's call 10,000 plus years ago when the Burning Legion invaded Azeroth. They were one of the first ones to show up and fight beside Cenarius to repel that invasion. And in that invasion, they died, both of them. They were overrun by demons, and they died defending the forests of Kalimdor like they were sworn to do. So that was the first death of Ursoc. You see him a little bit later on, or a lot later on, time-wise, but in the game, in Wrath of the Lich King, there's a pretty substantial quest line that you have to help him. He's been corrupted by a failed world tree, and a nightmare remnant in that world tree that's corrupted the local furbog around the tree in Grizzly Hills, and has also corrupted him because they resurrected him. So you cleanse the corruption, you cleanse him, and then he goes back he dies a second time and goes back to the Emerald Dream again. So that's who he is. So again, you really got to be paying attention to the story and know a little bit more than just the big name characters that we've seen in the previous two. So we start with when this trailer rolls, we start with immediately his death. Now I was a little confused because, like I just mentioned, he's died twice in Warcraft lore. The first time was against the Burning Legion. The second time was he had been corrupted by the Nightmare, and we had to cleanse him and send him back to the Dream. In this when this cinematic starts to roll, you immediately see that he is enraged. He appears to be corrupted because he says the wilds will tremble before my fury. To me, in my mind, that's not something someone that's not corrupted would say, especially a wild god. Um, and he's fighting and he's scrapping, and then all of a sudden, you see what happens to him, but not really. So let's take a look real quick.
The wilds tremble before my fury! The nightmare's veil is lifted.
Okay. The nightmare veil is lifted, so we defeat him. He is defeated. You see something slash him across the chest. He falls. The next thing you see after he says he's pretty much thanking whoever killed him, the corruption has been lifted. He's going to go back to the endless forest, the forest in the sky, and until he's called again to defend the wilds, whenever that may be. And then you cut to what appears to be Malfurion Stormrage. That looks like a younger version of Malfurion. So I think, and I could be wrong, this is the death of Ursoc in 10,000 years ago when he's fighting the Burning Legion. Again, he seems like he's corrupted in this fight. Malfurion is there. Malfurion was not there in Grizzly Hills. Malfurion did not deliver the killing blow in either death. So I think this is Malfurion mourning the death of a wild god in the original invasion of the Burning Legion. Malfurion was there. Illidan was there. Tyrande was there. Maiev was there. I mean, this was, they threw a war and everybody came. Everybody of import was there 10,000 years ago, before the supercontinent of Kalimdor exploded and the Well of Eternity was destroyed, and they formed the continents that we know today. So Malfurion was there. So I think that this death was 10,000 years ago during the sundering of the Well of Eternity in the first invasion of the Burning Legion. So that may or may not be important. It jumped out in my mind because, again, it goes to show that time works differently in the Shadowlands, or appears to work differently. The death of Uther was 35 years ago. The death of Draka was probably a little longer than that, because she died in the first war. Uther died at the end of the third war. And then you've got Ursoc, who, if my thinking is correct, Ursoc, this death was 10,000 years ago. And then we see him, once he's released, we see his spirit arrive in Ardenweald, which is phenomenal. The music, the swell of the music is just literally pitch perfect. I mean, they could not have done a better job. It kicks you right in the gut.
I return at last to the long slumber, to the great forest beyond, until I may serve the wilds again.
So here's his spirit arriving in Ardenweald. Now, this is the first time that I've ever been introduced to this guy, and it's not until later on in the cinematic that we even know his name. Apparently, there are groves of souls in Ardenweald. They are the souls. When you go through, when you die, and the Arbiter will determine where your soul will go. if you go to the mall or if you go to one of the other four covenants. If you're a defender and lover of nature and the wild, apparently you get sent to Ardenweald. Makes sense for a druid, right? Or especially a wild god. But again, this is a race that we have never seen before in Warcraft. It kind of looks like a dryad that we've run into a couple of times before, but dryads are four-legged, and this dude has two legs. So he definitely has deer qualities, kind of like a dryad, but not quite. So you get the sense right away that his job is to protect the souls that are ferried to him in his grove. And he takes care of them.
Welcome to my grove, friend. My queen.
Okay, so here we get to see, just like the other two cinematics, we get to see the leader of Ardenweald. We saw the leader of... Excuse me, we did not get to see the leader of Maldraxxus because apparently, according to the story that plays out, spoiler warning, the leader of Maldraxxus is missing. The leader of Bastion we actually did see. She was... you see her at the very end. She tells Devos to do not do anything. You are to stay on the path, and you're going to forget about this whole... the jailer is free and not stray from the path. This apparently is the Winter Queen. She is in control and rules over Ardenweald. She reminds me a little bit of a kinder, gentler Maleficent, if you're a Disney fan. You can tell that she... Obviously, this guy worships her. He kneels immediately. And she appears to be very benevolent and takes pride in what this guy is doing.
I shall protect these souls through their winter. I shall see them reborn in their spring. No matter what trial I face.
Look, you can see the look of hope and pride and almost happiness in her face when she's beaming down at her servant, at someone who has sworn fealty to her and to the cause of Ardenweald, and to swear an oath to do one job. And he has one job, and that's to take care of the souls in his grove. We don't know how big that grove is. It could be 5 souls. It could be 1,000,000. We have no idea. But by God, he's going to take care of every one of them, or die trying.
I swear it, my queen. I swear it. Rest well. And dream.
So here we go.
Season after season of this drought.
Season after season of a drought. There is obviously a time skip to when Ursoc arrives in this grove in Ardenweald and falls underneath the care of this Grovekeeper. And now it skips ahead, and Ardenweald, you can see it in the visual. There is a drought. The drought is not water, it's anima, or souls. It's starting to... The things that have started to affect the other covenants are starting to affect Ardenweald as well. In Bastion, we get to see the formation. It looks okay of what we saw of it, but due to the Forsworn, the group that Devos starts, they've got a building and mounting insurgency in that covenant. Maldraxxus is knee-deep in a civil war. It's a wasteland. The civil war apparently is being prodded and advanced by the jailer. And here we see that a drought is killing Ardenweald, and souls are being drained. Again, probably at the hands of the jailer. So this guy is still here. He's still doing his job. And he makes the comment, season after season, we have no idea how long, but I'm thinking that it's in these cinematics, we're going to finally, no matter when they happen, and you see the death of someone, whenever that is in the timeline, the ending of the cinematics will catch us up to present day and to what's going on when we arrive in Shadowlands. That's just my thought anyway. Things are about to get heated.
Here. It's so little. I know.
So the anima's running low. So everything is dying. He can't even find nourishment to take care of the souls that are under his care.
It must be done. Reclaim everything from this grove. Everything.
Okay. So real quick, this jumped out at me, and I couldn't put my finger on it for a while. I had to watch this several times to figure out where I had seen this before and what it reminded me of. And again, the team that makes these cinematics, they don't do anything on a whim. Just about every visual, every trace of the computer pen that when they're crafting these cinematics is done with thought and reason behind it. So there is a reason why they give you a close-up of this dude's staff. And what they're doing, as you heard it, the grove must be not cleansed, but everything's got to go. We've got to take all of these souls. And this guy, the Grovekeeper that we've been introduced to, is about to, flip his lid. He's about to go nuts because these guys who he does not know are coming in and wrecking his grove, even though as it may be in a drought or not, but they're wrecking his grove, and they're trying to prevent him from doing the one thing he promised his queen that he was going to do, and that was take care of every last soul that came to him in his grove.
No! This is my grove! You will not destroy them! Arrolon!
So that's the first time we hear this guy's name, Arrolon. I'm not sure how to spell it. I haven't looked it up yet, but his name is Arrolon. And you saw a mild, nature-loving, tree-hugging, for lack of a better term, mild-mannered little guy flip a switch and go Terminator mode almost immediately when he saw someone threatening his grove. And he opened up a can on these 4 or 5 other guys, very similar. The race looks identical, so they look like bigger versions of him because they're draining the last few souls that he has under his care in this grove. And I don't know if you noticed, I'll go back just a little bit. So look at that. So the visuals are identical to the battle that we saw at the very beginning with Ursoc. And I bring this up because as I watched this several times, the thought hit me, and I could be completely wrong, but again, it's just I'm spitballing here. If we saw the moment in time where Ursoc was corrupted and then killed the second time, that same visual that would apply, and it would make sense. He was corrupted by the Nightmare, a creation of the old gods. Here we have this guy who goes bananas and does something, from what we've seen anyway, completely contrary to the character that we've known for the past 2 minutes. And it almost appears like he has been swallowed by rage, which is something the Nightmare does. So again, how did this guy go from mild-mannered protector of a calm forest grove to the Terminator in a matter of a few seconds? And I'm starting to wonder if when Ursoc died, and we thought we had cleansed him of the corruption which allowed him to go back or go to Ardenweald until he was needed again, if somehow he brought a little bit of the corruption with him to this grove in Ardenweald. We've seen it in the other cinematics, the corruption that the jailer has allowed to happen. In Bastion, we saw the corruption that the taint on Uther's soul of Frostmourne stayed with him, and he brought it into Bastion, which made Devos flip out and made her rethink everything. We saw the corruption in Maldraxxus, where the jailer had corrupted or at least influenced two of the five Maldraxxus houses to begin and wage a civil war to topple the elements that the jailer could not control within Maldraxxus. And here in Ardenweald, it's possible that we're seeing more corruption unknowingly brought to the Shadowlands in Ardenweald by Ursoc. And again, this ties just a little bit back to the staff and what we saw. So you saw the staff when he touched the pod with the soul and drain it. That energy looked a lot like Frostmourne. Frostmourne drained souls. So when Frostmourne, it strikes the killing blow, and Arthas or the Lich King would hold the sword out, and it would suck the soul of the victim into the blade. That staff, whether it's benevolent or not, did the same thing to the spirit pod in this grove a second ago. And it makes me kind of wonder, is that a way to transfer a little bit of the corruption that could be still with Ursoc to this guy who Arrolon is just going ham on? So, I don't know, it's just a thought. May be completely fruitless. I could be completely wrong. But anyway, I think it's good food for thought, because we'll see that again in just a second.
My grove! You will not destroy them!
Arrolon, we are not your enemy.
Anyone who threatens my grove is my enemy. I swore an oath.
Again, you see, you think they're bad guys, like, they're bandits or, soul robbers, whatever term you want to use. And then he goes ham on them, and they're like, hey, calm down. First of all, it doesn't look like they retaliate as they could have if they had chosen to. He's like, Arrolon, we're not your enemy here. He doesn't say it, but we have orders from someone else. We've got to do this. Bigger things rest on us doing this. And he's about to find out exactly what's going on. And you'll see in this freeze frame that the Winter Queen, the ruler of Ardenweald, is showing back up for the first time in who knows how long.
My queen.
And the first time I saw this, I saw her and I was like, holy crap, she looks evil. Like, that is not the kind, benevolent, angelic face that we saw at the beginning of the cinematic. The way that she is presented right here looks like that she has turned and that she's been corrupted. And you can see in the background, she has a small army behind her. So this dude is dead to rights. Like, if she wanted to, she snaps her fingers and this cat is gone, right? So he ceases to exist. So I thought he was about to get beat down. But, as you'll see in just one second,
I kept faith all this time that you would save us. And now you send scavengers to my grove? Why?
So again, we see a supporter, a servant of the higher power in a covenant calling his ruler into question. We saw that in Bastion with Devos, that the path is flawed. Something is wrong. And she got shot down for it. Maldraxxus, Draka did not call into question her ruler, her first original ruler, or her new master in the House of the Chosen. So that part was skipped. But here we've got this guy who's telling the queens, like, I've been here doing my job for however long, and I thought you were going to come and help me and save my grove and save these souls, and you never showed up, and now you're sending these scavengers to my grove to take the very souls that I swore an oath to you to protect. Why are you doing that? And to her credit, she doesn't flip out and behead him on the spot. You see, instead of hope and pride and the angelic face that we saw at the beginning, you see sadness, you see regret, and you see pain. And she's about to show him exactly why she has to sacrifice some souls to save many souls.
Saw what is to come.
Ardenweald is dying.
It must be saved. The Queen has called the Wild Hunt.
We have culled your grove so that others might live.
So she showed him exactly what's going to happen if they don't do this. And Ardenweald dies completely. There's not just a few groves left with some souls that they can cultivate and save. Ardenweald is dead, which again, you got to think is exactly what the jailer, who's already been named as the major protagonist for this expansion, what he ultimately wants. He wants the entire Shadowlands back under his control, or completely under his control. Because he knows, and I think his bigger game plan, and again, this is just theory crafting, he knows, because I think he's been working with the Burning Legion and Sargeras. I think he was the one that originally set Sargeras on his path however many eons ago. When Sargeras got it in his head, the universe has to die. Everything has to die, because that's the only way to stop the Void Lords. The Void Lords' control created the old gods, Shadow. That's the only way to stop them. Everything's got to die. The jailer put that into Sargeras' head, in his mind. That's why the Burning Legion was created, millions of years ago, or however long it was. So the jailer knows that the Shadowlands and the Four Covenants outside of the Mall has to be taken down, because it's the Shadowlands, it's the land of the dead, but clearly there is life and there is power within the Shadowlands. Power like fueled by souls, which is probably the most potent source of power in the known universe, right? So he wants that all to himself, because that's the only way in his mind that he can stop the Void Lords and the Shadow from overtaking everything. Everything else is second. That's the only goal. So again, that's just my thought as to why Ardenweald and the rest of the other three covenants are falling apart, because this is all at the behest of the jailer, because that's part of his ultimate game plan to stop the Void Lords and end the Shadow, the threat of the Shadow. So, and again, going back to Sylvanas, death apparently is the only thing that cannot be swayed by Shadow and the Void Lords. It does not seem to have an impact on them. The old gods could not manipulate and coerce an undead mind like they could the living. Just another tidbit. So the next thing I wanted to show you, and we're about to see it. So he's getting the ultimatum, or he got the ultimatum. So exactly, what do you want to do, Arrolon? We have to save the rest of Ardenweald while we can. Will you sacrifice this one soul? And you see it here. That's Ursoc. That's the one he's been protecting and babying the most. Will you let Ursoc sacrifice himself, or will you sacrifice Ursoc's soul, his spirit, to save what we can of Ardenweald? And that's the choice that young Arrolon has before him.
Will you sacrifice one soul for the forest entire? Or will you keep your oath?
Your heart is pure. I will honor your choice.
And again, this is something we haven't seen before in the other two cinematics. The ruler of Ardenweald has just given her servant a choice. Because his heart is pure, he can say, no, I'm not going to sacrifice Ursoc. I'm going to protect this soul like I swore an oath to do. And I'm not going to let you take it. And if he had said that, she would have turned around and walked away, and she would have taken her hunting party, and they would have gone to other groves and started culling other souls to protect what they could have of Ardenweald. And Arrolon probably would have been left on his own. However, that's not the choice he makes. He has to think about it, though.
One last time, you serve the wilds.
Again, right in the fields.
You will not be forgotten. Forgive me.
Okay, this is one of the last times I'm going to stop it. But again, you see the close-up of his staff absorbing the soul, like Frostmourne, from the spirit pod, the soul pod of Ursoc into his staff. And apparently, he's going to use it to help protect the rest of Ardenweald that can be still saved. So, again, I watched this several times, and I saw the close-ups of the two staffs, Arrolon's and the other guys that we saw a little bit earlier. I was like, why does that look so familiar? Why does that look so familiar? And then it hit me. For whatever reason, and it may not be important, but I think it's striking that the staff, the head of their staff, both of them, especially Arrolon's, looks exactly like the rune on a hearthstone. Again, I don't know why. I haven't been able really to really connect the dots and have this eureka moment. I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And again, just let me show you real quick what I'm talking about. So if you look at the Hearthstone rune in game, this is what the little icon is that's been in game since 2004. Actually, I think it looked like the same way as in Warcraft 3 as well. But here you can see, let me pull it up, get a better shot. That's not a better shot. That's too tiny. Too tiny. Try this one. Okay, that's a little better. I mean, that's the staff head looks like the runestone or the hearthstone. And in Warcraft, obviously for game mechanics, everybody has a hearthstone. Most of us probably have 3 or 4 different hearthstones or variants of them just to help traveling around the world that much easier. So game mechanics wise, they're not rare at all. You've got to have them. Everyone has one. Most people have 3 or 4. However, in the context of the story or the confines of the story of the Warcraft universe, hearthstones are exceedingly rare. Like, not everyone has a hearthstone. Joe Blow Farmer, tilling crops in Westfall does not have a hearthstone. Jaina had to use considerable magical knowledge and power to create one hearthstone for Anduin, which she gave him in one of the books. I forget which. Wolfheart, I think. I think it was Wolfheart. I could be wrong. Let's see. I've got my books right here. Yes, Wolfheart. I think it was Wolfheart. And that's just because if she ever wanted, or if Anduin ever wanted to get away from Stormwind Keep, he could visit her in Theramore using this very, very, very special hearthstone. So what do hearthstones do? Well, they take you home, right? So wherever you consider home, the magic and the blessing of home, your hearth, where your heart is, that's where the stone will take you. So why does that staff, those staves, resemble the rune of a Hearthstone? Again, I don't know if I have an answer or not, but it's kind of neat that they did that. I gotta think there's a reason for it. Ardenweald, it is, I would consider, even though Jaina created one, I would consider in my mind that a Hearthstone is imbued with more nature magic or life magic than necessarily arcane. I could be wrong. I don't know. Jaina's a master of the arcane. Druids, which is what these guys remind me of in Ardenweald, seem to have more natural magic or life magic about them. So does a Hearthstone, I don't know, maybe the magics of a Hearthstone come from Ardenweald. And, we just never put two and two together. Who knows? But I just thought that was kind of neat. So anyway, that's pretty much it. Arrolon decides to sacrifice Ursoc to save the rest of Ardenweald. And Ursoc is no more.
I will hunt for you, my queen. For Ardenweald, and for the souls we can yet save. I swear it. I swear it.
And that's it. So again, it ends with the classic, close-up of the face and the look of determination on our protagonist in the cinematic. Just like the others, just like the Warbringer series did back for Battle for Azeroth. So again, Bastion is, witnessing an insurgency of some kind, whether they know it or not. Maldraxxus is knee-deep in a civil war, and Ardenweald apparently is fighting for its survival because it's dying. Rivendreth comes out next Thursday, so it's going to be very, very interesting what new angle they decide to spin for that one and see what's going on there. But anyway, those are my 2 cents worth of thoughts for the Ardenweald Cinematic. Again, they did a phenomenal job pulling the heartstrings for this one. The music, the writing, just the overall feel of the cinematic was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. Very, very sad, but very poignant. And hopefully Rivendreth will deliver the same way that the first 3 have. So anyway, please let me know what you think. I'm gonna chop this down a little bit maybe, and I'll put it up on YouTube. So please don't forget to follow and subscribe to my YouTube channel. There'll be details of that on my Twitch channel as well, and also on the YouTube channel, on the YouTube video when I post it up a little bit later. I'll put details for my Twitch channel as well, so please follow and subscribe there as well. But anyway, and please always leave your comments, good and bad. Please tell me where I screwed up, or if I'm onto something. I always like those better. So anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Have a great night, have a great weekend, and enjoy the game, and I will see you there. Take care.